In the year 1860, nearly 4 million enslaved African Americans lived in the South. They worked sun up to sundown, planting, harvesting, binding, staking, and cleaning. They followed order after order on plantations owned by white men. Plantation owners often hired overseers to manage the slaves. An overseer could whip a slave for many reasons. Men, women, and even children could fall victim to an overseer's cruel punishment. On many plantations, slaves sang the song, "Follow the Drinking Gourd." It was their secret to freedom. It was the secret of the Underground Railroad. Following the drinking gourd is a coded message that gives the route for an escape from Alabama and Mississippi. Of all of the routes out of the Deep South, this is the only one where the details survived. The Underground Railroad was not a real railroad, but a secret path to freedom in the North. Running away was tricky because you could easily be caught during the day, so slaves traveled by night. Rewards were given to people who returned a runaway slave. African Americans had been taught signs and signals to look for while they traveled. On the plantation, owners would try to keep slaves from learning directions so they could not find which way was north. But by running away with no directions, the slaves were taught to look and walk towards the North Star. Traveling by night, slaves stayed close to rivers because their scent could easily be lost in the water. They would also look for moss growing on trees because it grew on the north side. Members of the Underground Railroad were fully aware of the danger of fleeing slaves. To help them, they would send travelers into the South to secretly teach slaves specific routes they could navigate. Horse-drawn wagons would pick up slaves and carry them to safe houses, while the slaves hid under crates and bags. Slaves were hidden in basements, barns, attics, or even a secret room. By the beginning of the Civil War, about 500 people a year were going south to teach routes of the Underground Railroad. Scholars estimate that nearly 100,000 slaves successfully fled to freedom. From the words of the famous Underground Railroad conductor Harriet Tubman, "I had crossed the line of which I had so long been dreaming. I was free, but there was no one to welcome me to the land of freedom. But to this solemn resolution I came. I was free, and they should be free also. I would make a home for them in the North, and the Lord helping me, I would bring them all here." Slaves freed and in bondage hoped for the day when their brothers and sisters would all be free together in the same land. Looking to the Underground Railroad was a great place to start.